Hello everyone, so we just had one of the best over-the-air patch changes that I think we've had maybe ever. They took out a lot of the really stale matchups of the metagame of like a Professor X Cannonball lock, where it just felt like no matter what you ran, you couldn't consistently counter it. It was one of those decks that you just dread running into and you know that you're going to see it every time you play. But by kind of loosening up Professor X's restrictions and taking away that combo play between him and Cannonball, they effectively ruined that combo, which I think is fantastic. You can still play each of them respectively, but you'll have to do it a little bit different, and they're not going to be that tag team duo of just dominance anymore. They also, along with that, buffed up a few cards that I think are really interesting. One being Stegron, which we're not using today, but I do want to dive into and really find a home for Stegron. I think with that controlled chaos that he brings of that movement, he could be very good now. But today we are running a Gilgamesh deck. Because I was competing in the Conquerors event last week, I didn't release any kind of video on Gilgamesh because I wanted to brew as much as I could for that event. But he's been out for like a week and a half, and we have already gotten a buff on him. I guess his cube rate was relatively low, but I think a lot of that was probably hinged on how dominant Professor X was and just how hard it is for a zoo deck to do much if one or two of the lanes are locked in and you have the threat of Cannonball to win them the other location. And so with today's build, we have a Gilgamesh Zoo. And the thing that I like about this build is between Mockingbird and your kind of core cards, your Ant-Man, your Dazzler seems pretty core in this build, the Khazar, the Blue Marvel, and then the extra buffed up Shana from a 3-2 to a 3-4, which is huge, by the way. You get a lot of consistent ways to play. And then the other pieces in there, you'll see the Rogue, the Red Guardian, and the Chimera. Those are tech slots. You can take those out and interchange them depending on what the meta looks like. You don't need those pieces to consistently fill up your deck. Between Shana and Squirrel Girl, you're already going to have your locations almost capped out every single game anyways, and so you don't really need to rely on those. You just rely on their value that they provide to the deck. So if you're seeing a lot of early game kind of high power plays that are within Shang-Chi range, you can take out the Chimera. You can put in Shang-Chi. If you're seeing Killmonger, you definitely want to consider the Chimera to make sure that your one costs are protected. The Red Guardian is just a good flex card. If you don't have him, you could do Nocturne. You could do Jeff. You could do Shadow King. You could do White Widow. Instead of Rogue, if you aren't seeing any ongoings, you can tech that out for something else, but I do like to have that kind of failsafe for those Cerebro plays, for the Living Tribunals, to make sure you have a chance in those matchups as well. But you have a lot of autonomy in those three cards and those three tech choices to determine what you're seeing and what you're going up against the most to position yourself in a really optimal way to win against a wide variety of builds. And so this deck puts out a lot of power consistently. You won't see Gilgamesh in our games too much today. Unfortunately, he was hiding at the bottom of the deck most of the time. But whenever he's there, he is an absolute dominant force. He can come in much higher, even though it's only an extra 2 points on him. You also have the extra 2 points on your Shana. And with the restriction of Professor X being commonly played being lifted, you have a lot more room to play those cards and a lot more opportunity to really get a big Gilgamesh if that's what you need to win. Sometimes it's going to be doing a Mockingbird plus Shana on the last turn instead. But sometimes you're going to need to really heavily swing one location back in your favor, and that is where Gilgamesh will come into play. And so we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. Sometimes getting a duplicate version of Red Guardian, a duplicate of Mockingbird, can have so much impact on the game. So we're not going to be able to play, and speaking of duplicates, we're not going to be able to play Nico here, but we do get the Nico spell for a duplicate. So I'm going to go ahead and play Nico out, and I was thinking we could do like a double Red Guardian, but they didn't play this turn. With Los Diablo space, we could get a duplicate, duplicate Squirrel Girl, but I'm not sure that that's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and skip on 3. They've skipped all 3 of the first 3 turns as well. So very interesting to see what they're going to have up their sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and play Red Guardian, and I'm going to play Squirrel Girl as well. Actually, I'm going to play Red Guardian into mid because that's going to be a lane that's a little bit harder for us to push power into directly. So we're going to have to rely a little bit more on some of our secondary cards like Gilgamesh, Blue Marvel, and then potentially Mockingbird. So Human Torch, Ghost Spider moving the Human Torch, and then is it a full-on move deck? And then Falcon. So it's a move bounce style deck. I did take out the Shadow King, unfortunately. I'm going to play Blue Marvel. We may do Ant-Man over into the right lane next turn. And then alongside that, we could also do Ant-Man. But with Human Torch here, it could get pretty large, but what, 16 being about as big as it gets? Kind of like this. It's not huge, but it might be big enough. Because I think they move Human Torch. If they do like a Heimdall to shift it again, then that 32 is not really going to be that relevant. So they move 2 cards over into mid. We have the Ant-Man. What do they have in the left lane? Is that going to be their Heimdall? Yeah, Heimdall is not going to be enough with the Human Torch shift. It's just not going to be able to keep up with the stats that we can pump out. We have the Gilgamesh coming in at 16 now. Definitely feeling a little bit more worthwhile to play. You can still get countered with things like Killmonger, so you have to either build things into that or anticipate it with things like a Shana, and then maybe drop Gilgamesh on 5. So Shana on 3, Khazar on 4, Gilgamesh on 5 into a kind of free turn 6 play. We're going to go ahead and take the 2. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have King Venom. The first location is Castle Blackstone. We do have Mockingbird, so I think I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play Squirrel Girl out. If we can potentially duplicate the Mockingbird with Nico's spell, then that is a huge momentum swing in our direction. We can get 9 power that's under Shang-Chi range and just gives us so much pressure. And since starting this deck, we haven't seen Shana, unfortunately. And we do get Nico's copy ability. I think I'm going to go ahead and do Nico to the left. Next, we would do Mockingbird, and then we can hold the second Mockingbird for a bit. We have Khazar. We have Kyera, so that playing in mid is going to be... Okay, well, never mind. It's not going to be risky anymore anyways. Dream Dimension is unfortunate, increasing the cost of cards. We do get the extra energy on this turn. Subterranea is definitely an interesting one. Not one that we necessarily want to see. I'm going to hold the rock for now. I'm going to play the first Mockingbird to the left, though. And I'm gonna hold the rock for now. It may be that we play it out to get the bonus from Khazar and potentially a further discount on Mockingbird. So they do have Mobius. They were looking to counter the Mockingbird. Thankfully, we at least got 1 down for the discount. The second one's not going to be as beneficial, but it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and play... We have extra energy this turn, so I kind of want to play our Mockingbird. Next turn, we can do the Khazar. We have Khazar, Ant-Man. We have Kyera, which we probably need to put down at some point. But I think being a Thanos deck, I don't think they're going to be running like a Killmonger. So they have the Rock. They have Waves. So I know a lot of the Thanos builds right now are running things like Blob. Things, I think they run a Mockingbird of their own. And they just get a lot of good things going for them. Let's go ahead and play Blue Marvel. Next turn, as long as we still have the lead in the left lane, we'll have that extra energy. If not, we can always do something like Khazar, Rock, Ant-Man. Would be a potential line that we go with. Or we could always go Gilgamesh plus Ant-Man if that's what we draw. So there comes down the Blob. Let's see what he absorbs. Just 15. So the Blink and the Vision and then a Rock is all that he grabbed. We do have the extra energy. We don't have the extra energy. I think this is what we go with. The Ant-Man in the left lane will have a decent power level. We're going to bump Squirrel Girl and Nico up as well. Victory. And we do get the King Venom retreat. We will take the 1 cube where we can. Again, I haven't seen Shana since I started running this deck. She is a good push for us in unison with some of these other cards, a discount from Mockingbird, but we'll take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Danny. We do have Cancun as that left location, so we don't want to put any power there. Unfortunately, it's one of those locations that's just kind of eh. Vormir comes down. If we get Red Guardian, it's going to be perfect into that Sunspot lane. I would rather be able to get Kyra and then a 1-cost plus Red Guardian, but it may be that we just send it. I'm going to go ahead and donate our Red Guardian so that their Sunspot can't scale any additional, and then therefore we take out that threat. He is now a 0 power, non-scaling, non-menace. And we do get Shana for once, and we get Nico as well. And so I like the idea of doing like Nico into Shana. That's going to give us some good power spread. We're going to copy the Shana as well, and then we're going to see what she ends up bringing out onto the board for us. From a 3-2 to a 3, Squirrel Girl is not what we want to see. From a 3-2 to a 3-4 is a big swing back in the right direction. And so our Titania bounces to their side. We do get Blue Marvel though. So that is going to be great in combination with maybe Gilgamesh on the last turn. So maybe we can drop a Squirrel Girl plus Gilgamesh to really slam home some power. And the interesting thing about Cancun games is that it doesn't matter what power is in what lane, as long as we can put more power than they can into those two locations, then we're perfectly fine. So we know that they have a Red Hulk coming down, and we do get the Squirrel Girl. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful value. I think what we want to do is anticipate that they might play into this lane. I'm going to play Squirrel Girl to the left, and then Gilgamesh. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to play Squirrel Girl and Gilgamesh. We're going to let them have the Titania. That's fine. We're going to have a squirrel of our own. That's going to be an extra 1, 2, 3 across the board. Gilgamesh is going to get massive. We're going to be able to get the Ant-Man bonus in the right location. I think we have a really good shot. Unless they have like a sneaky Killmonger, I think we're in a really, really good spot here. So they do play in the right location so that Titania doesn't bounce anywhere. They are winning the right lane by like 11, and we win by 25. We win the left by 10. Not that it matters, not that it factors in, but we do get power in the left. We get 30 in mid, and we outpower the Death Red Hulk. It doesn't look like their ideal play line happened, and sometimes we take those. We will take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, so next up we have little Kamikaze, and they snapped off of turn 1, which is really interesting. We do have Squirrel Girl. I'm going to go ahead and play it. I like getting Squirrel Girl out early. That way we can focus on just whatever else we draw into. So that whether that be Red Guardian, whether that be Kyra to protect them, we can just play whatever we need to. We can also change this middle location, which I think is an interesting idea. But I also don't like how full this is going to get, how quickly. But we are going to go ahead and push for it. Drawing into Mockingbird would be beautiful because we do have the little bit of a discount on her. We could always discount it further with Shana, but I'm not sure that that's the line we want to go with. So Mr. Sinister tells me this is either a Patriot build or they're looking to do a Cersei build. And Wakanda Embassy comes down, giving a bonus to our Shana. But I'm not ready to cap out all of the locations just yet, I don't think. I mean, we could. We could here, here, here. Next turn, we probably a skip unless we get Khazar. We have Blue Marvel, and then we're looking to get Gilgamesh. So maybe. It also makes our Mockingbird almost nothing. We take out their Silver Surfer with the Brood. Interesting. We do get Khazar here. And so we can do the Khazar into Blue Marvel, into hoping for a Gilgamesh play to give us a decent push in all of the locations. Now, without them having Silver Surfer, I think that this is very much a Cersei build. I think it's looking to do either Silver Surfer or Cersei. And if they do Silver Surfer, if they do Cersei into the Mr. Sinister lane, that's a little bit scary for them because there's a few cards that can really be duds there. The 3 into 4, I think, is an interesting idea as well. But We have Khazar coming down. They have Sasquatch, the massive Sasquatch himself. We have Dazzler. Do we play Dazzler now or not? I'm going to just play Blue Marvel to give us a pretty good bump here, to give us a little bit of a lead here. And then maybe we play Dazzler on the last turn. Maybe we get lucky and we top deck Gilgamesh. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. It is the Cersei line. It changes into Mystique, which is not fortunate for them. And then Shana, which is also not fortunate for them because it caps them out in the middle location and the left location as well. And so can we beat this? This would be 8, right? It's 2, 4, 6, 8. And then this would be 9. Or this would be positive 8 on our end, but minus 4 on theirs. So it'd be an overall 12 power swing here. Plus the Blue Marvel. So 13 power impact here. This is what we're going to go with. I'm not going to snap because I don't want them to run. The Cersei upgrade with the Shana was super unfortunate. That's why I don't like to do 2s into 3s. I really like to do 4s into 5s. That seems like the best middle ground for you. But we take their Ant-Man out. We have the Rogue. The Absorbing Man does multiply their right lane. Master Mold is fine. A Sasquatch can't change. The Mockingbird, they can have that right location. We are able to swing left, we're able to swing mid, and we will grab the 4 cubes off of the turn 1 snap, mind you. I don't know if they had like a really good initial draw or what, but we will gladly take the 4. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Fuzzy Dice. The first location is the big house. We have our Squirrel Girl off the jump, and I almost think we play it, but I'm going to start with Ant-Man. We're going to start small. Since we don't have Mockingbird in hand. If we already had Mockingbird, then I would definitely throw Squirrel Girl early to get that early discount on the Mockingbird. But since we don't need to force it, we're going to go ahead and do it on turn 2, though. We don't have a better play on turn 2. We could have went with Dazzler. We could have went with something else, but I like the idea of having it out in case we draw the Mockingbird. Dream Dimension is a little bit unfortunate. We can take out their Ravonna, but I'm not sure that that's what we want to target. I'm going to play Kyera and then get a little bit better idea of what they're wanting to discount with Ravonna. Because it could be that they're wanting to discount Iron Man. And then we have Rogue, we have Red Guardian, both primed and ready to steal or just take those abilities away from the opponent. So Nocturne comes down. They could potentially change Dream Dimension. Space Throne is... super fortunate for us, super unfortunate for them. I'm going to go ahead and play a Khazar. Our spacing is super limited, but I think we're in a winning spot here. This is just super unfortunate. Even if they have a Jeff, then we're still going to put a little bit more power there through Khazar and Blue Marvel. They're thinking awfully long about if they want to stay. And they do decide to stay here. They have the Ironheart, which does bump up that middle location. Unfortunately, it bumps them up. We have the increase in cost, courtesy of the Dream Dimension. I think I'm going to go ahead and play Red Guardian into the Ironheart. 1, that's going to negatively afflict them. 2, and hopefully, if they're planning on doing an Odin, that's going to take out that potential line.
Opponent snapped.
And they do hit us with the snapback now. Interesting. We could always do maybe a Rogue and Mockingbird on the last turn. Wong. I think it was the Wong decision, my friend, to snap back. Your Ironheart is no longer going to be able to pump up that left lane. So then it just comes down to winning these 2 locations. And so we can do Mockingbird to the left. We can do Rogue to the right, just for good measure. Just in case they do decide to do anything crazy there. So a white tiger would just be 1. They would win left, we'd win here. And so I'm going to go ahead and lock this one in. I think with the Mockingbird to the left, we get a lot of additional value that they're not going to be anticipating. We're going to take away the Rogue. Unfortunately, we don't have the Gilgamesh, but it's fine. We just have to swing one of these other 2 lanes. And I think without them having Ironheart, I don't think it'll be much of an issue. And we do end up getting the 4 cube retreat. Just unfortunate. With a deck like this, if you're if your key combo pieces get blocked or countered, it's really hard to do much of anything or pivot. And so we will gladly take the 4. Let's go ahead and jump over into one more. All right. Next up, we have Slob Knob Corn Cob. The first location is the Savage Land, and so that gives us a good discount on our Mockingbird. I almost want to do something like Ant-Man into Dazzler on 2. Just get it locked in place, and then we're just competing for the other locations. I'm at the very least going to play Ant-Man, and then we'll see. We'll assess if we still want to do that on the next turn, but that's my tentative line. Nor Dimension is interesting. We also have Shana now, and so we really don't need the extra energy all that much. We don't really need the extra bodies on the board because this deck with the Zoo, you can really get your board filled very easily, very consistently. I think we just place Shana. Next turn we do a Dazzler. We're gonna go to the casino, see what hits in the left lane, and hope for the best. And that's gonna give us a free Mockingbird to play as long as they don't have a Mobius. So a Power Stone. Thanos decks can put out a lot of power pretty consistently, but without that lockdown component that they had previously, I'm not sure if they stand up very well or not. Unfortunately, Miniaturized Lab is a little bit very restrictive. Not even just a little bit. It's very restrictive. So doing a Shana, we could then do a Khazar on 4, but we'd have to skip on 5. I think I'm going to play Red Guardian. Not ideal, but it hurts their Power Stone a touch, and they're not going to be able to have a potentially 20 power Thanos. They'd play their Jhin. Even though they're going to be able to have a lot of energy here, I think we both run into a pretty big spacing constraint. So on, we could do Khazar. Next turn we can do Blue Marvel plus a Jhin, and then we just fill up the right location on the last turn. It's not great, and maybe we just do Blue Marvel into mid next turn. That does stack a lot of our ongoings, and so if for some reason they have an Enchantress, which I don't think any Thanos build I've ran into does, if they did, it puts a lot of those stones into one lane. Squirrel Girl is now also a card that we have. I think I'm going to do Blue Marvel. Next turn, we could do something like Shana, Mockingbird, and then all of our Jhins. If we happen to draw Gilgamesh, then that lets us get a really big Gilgamesh as well. As long as they don't have Enchantress. That's what we're hoping for here. I think we're in an okay spot. Okay, that's fine. It pushes our Dazzler over into the Savage Land. With Blue Marvel coming in, we do have the lead tentatively. They don't have the stone that allows them to move Thanos freely. I think it's the Space Stone. They don't have that, and so I didn't do my calculations correct. We weren't able to draw this turn. Very unfortunate. But I think between Mockingbird, we have Shana that's going to go down last. Let's do Shana and then one Jhin. And I think we should be okay. We're going to go ahead and send it. I don't think they're going to be able to overpower and just pump out about 15 to 18 in the right lane and be able to match an extra 7 or 8 in mid to win both of those. So they do move their Nocturne. They could have played into the Savage Land, but they decided not to. Oscorp Tower comes down. They play for mid and the right, just giving up on the left entirely. We get some decent ones. We get Angel, Chavez, both coming in at 2 costs, no negative. We didn't get anything outrageous, but nothing abysmal either. And so far, nothing great in the right lane. I'm not sure. Maybe because we didn't snap, they decided to stay. But 7 power in the right lane would have been a hard press win every single time. We will gladly take it. The spacing constraints made that game really awkward, but we were still able to find a way to put like 60 power on the board, which is nothing to snuff at. We will take the 2, and I do want to see Gilgamesh again, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into one more. All right, next up we have La Schemia, and we do find Gilgamesh. Finally, he has been hiding in our deck almost every single game, which is fine. We can still put a lot of power on the board, but he's that massive power presence to swing one back in our favor. So they have Snow Guard. I have to anticipate a Loki deck, which is unfortunate. Loki is all over the place, and he's low-key still really, really good. Great Portal comes down, gives us Death, which is unfortunate. We do have Khazar to use in Onslaught Citadel. If they use Loki, we can potentially rogue one of those cards away, which is nice to see. Let's go ahead and play Shana out early. We want to pump it out as early as possible. Maybe we even do an early Gilgamesh. Maybe. So 0 comes down. The next card we play is going to have its ability removed. And so that's unfortunate. And they snapped into it with the Nocturne, with Snow Guard. I have to think that they're not running Killmonger. So I'm going to go ahead and 0 out Kyera, and I'm going to play Ant-Man to the left. Next turn, we'll have to play into mid, and so I'm looking to do something like... Actually, I don't like Khazar there either. It's just all around not very good. We're going to stay for the snap, but all around not great because of the 0 that came out of Shana. Ant-Man, they do have Loki now, and so we have to look out for the rogue play or their ongoings, the ongoings of their own. Gilgamesh, I mean, it's not the worst play. Definitely not great. Not the worst either, right? It's 11 power, or it's 10 power. This is not what I meant when I said I want a Gilgamesh game. We're going to play him out. He's just a decent body. If we get Blue Marvel in Onslaught Citadel, maybe. So the double drop in mid, they could have a Gilgamesh of their own. So Dazzler and then Red Guardian. Taking away Shana's ability, it's fine. But had we dropped something like Blue Marvel, Red Guardian would have absolutely bamboozled us there. We do get Blue Marvel, but knowing that they could have our Rogue, I'm not sure it's ever worth it to drop it here. We also have this as an option. That gives us an extra +2 on Hawkeye. And it makes a Rogue play on their end. Kind of iffy. It's not great, but I don't want to give up on the dream. We're 8-1 right now. And so they do play for both mid and the right lane. And so, oh my god. That is where we're going to go ahead and end the video for today. We'll end it as 8-2. Still overall, huge cube gains. Super unfortunate final game. Gilgamesh can do really well at curving out early. He's just that body presence that makes the opponents uncertain, but he's not always your in-game line either. We will go ahead and end the video here. Thank you guys as always for being here. As always, this has been TLSG. Later.